I remember being at the Node.js conference in San Francisco and being really scared talking to Ryan Dahl because he was one of my idols. So imagine you're trying to talk to your dream girl for the first time. And that's how I felt. Well, not exactly, but you know what I mean, right? You know, you have to also understand that I was even younger than I am now, and not an American. But really, the biggest obstacle for me to talk to this hero of mine was the fact that somehow I figured that he must be some kind of Superman or something. I mean, he had created a Node.js, a tool that millions of people can't imagine not using today. But eventually, I got up the nerve and talked with him. And do you know what? He was just a cool guy. He didn't act like he was a superstar at all. He just happened to have done amazing things. And that really got me thinking. Like, what makes it possible for some people to achieve an extraordinary things? You know, what sets them apart from the regular guys that just show up at work every day and just get through it? So I've been trying to find answers to these questions, and this is what I ended up with. You know, just 3 stories about people that I really admire. So let's walk together through these stories and see what I think that makes these people exceptional, and how can we follow their example to actually do amazing things. So let's start with Ryan. Imagine for a second that you are Ryan Dahl. Imagine you are doing your PhD and working on all these math problems that really no one else can relate to. And say you are 3 years into the thing already when suddenly you realize that being a math professor is really not what you want to be doing with your life. And so you say, screw it, and you quit. You buy a one-way ticket to South America, right? It sounds cool, doesn't it? But you need some money. And so you start teaching English, and then you meet this guy, a programmer, who shows you a bit more interesting way how to make money. And so you start making websites using PHP and Ruby on Rails. But you're still this math guy thinking about performance and stuff a lot, and you see that Rails can't handle a big load. I mean, single instance of Rails can just handle a single request at a time. And so you start fiddling and thinking about some other ways how to do that. You know, you try to use Nginx web server, basically load balance between multiple instances of Rails. Then, inspired by MongoDB, you try to write your own web server that is actually not that tied to file system and therefore scale a little better. But eventually, you end up writing these non-blocking web servers in pure C, you know, using libio and libev. And that works. That works, but it's kind of tedious. And so you're looking for some simple and faster way how to script these web servers. And you really like Ruby, so you tried Ruby and then some other higher-level languages like Python or Haskell. When you find this crazy language called JavaScript, and JavaScript is a great fit. I mean, it's a great fit for this asynchronous model of programming because the whole browser is asynchronous. And more than that, there is no blocking API in JavaScript. I mean, you can't read or write files in JavaScript. And Google has just released V8, this great JavaScript engine from Chrome. So you are sold. You're sold on this idea of putting all these things together and basically creating an environment that would allow you to script these web servers in JavaScript. So you quit your job and start hacking on it. And after 6 months or something, you're staying at JSConf in Berlin and showing an IRC server implemented in like 400 lines of JavaScript. And you're totally scared, but it works. It works, and people are just blown away. You know, you get a lot of offers and a lot of attention, and so you're joining and moving to San Francisco, and you're going to work full-time on Node.js. And after 6 months of starving, you'll get paid as well. So that was the story of Ryan. But it shows that basically taking an existing solution and putting them together and creating this unique combination was actually the best way for him to create Node.js. And thinking about this, the creation process of Angular, for instance, has very similar background. So take the two-way data binding, for instance. Do you think it's a brand new idea? Because before Google, Miško used to work at Adobe, where he was using Flags. And guess what? Flags has very similar data binding. So it was not that brand new. Or about a year ago, when we were designing the dependency injection for Angular, there was nothing like that in JavaScript. But in other languages, like Java, it was a pretty common thing. I mean, there were many Java apps at Google using Juice framework, which is dependency injection. Or do you know how with Angular you can extend HTML, right? You can define custom elements and custom attributes and give it some behavior, right? That's even now I can't think of any other framework that would allow you to do that. But HTML is just XML, right? Which stands for Extended Markup Language. So again, the idea of extending HTML is not that brand new. And the point is not that Angular is just a bunch of stolen ideas. The point is that the combination is actually pretty unique, and I think that's why people like it. So the first lesson we should learn from Ryan is reusing and combining ideas. I mean, don't get frustrated by trying to reinvent the wheel every time. Rather, look around what already exists and what are other people working on. Because maybe you can collaborate or you can reuse some of the existing solutions. Do you remember Internet Explorer 5? Because honestly, I don't. But this guy, he does remember. Because as a college student, he was making websites. I mean, freelancing as everyone else. He did this famous app called Schedule Maker, where basically before each semester, where you're planning your classes, you would say, well, I want one intermediate math class and one advanced computer science class, and I want to have free Friday, and maybe I don't want to get up that early on Wednesday. And this app would basically generate all the possible schedules and give you the best ones based on your preferences. Anyway, even if you don't remember IE5, try to imagine something worse than Internet Explorer 6. And you'll realize how frustrating it was for him to deal with all these issues. Just think about just sending AJAX requests. You have to create this different XHR object in different browser, which eventually has, of course, different APIs. And a lot of other weirdness, like sometimes it's synchronous in Internet Explorer when the response comes from cache, and all kinds of weirdness. And what you really want to do is just say, send the request to your server and give me the response, right? Or my favorite one is, let's say you have an input and you wanna update some model based on user typing into this input. In some browsers you have this input event. In some other browsers you don't have that, so you need to use key down, which for some reason at the time when the handler is called, the value is not updated yet, so you need to wrap it into set timeout 0. I'm not even talking about the fact that just registering the listener is different on Internet Explorer and different on normal browsers. Or, I mean, even the event object that you get eventually passed into this handler is has different APIs in different browsers. It's just insane. And John was not the only guy struggling with this. I mean, he was not the only man on the planet trying to build websites. In fact, there already were other libraries trying to solve these issues. But it was not good enough. I mean, at least not for him. Because he had this dream where he would basically develop a website in Firefox, and then it would just work on IE. And that's pretty much how jQuery was born. A library that basically made web development sane. A library that is used now on over 55% of today's websites. And jQuery was released back in 2006, so it's over 6 years now. And still, even the latest browsers don't have such a nice and powerful DOM API as jQuery did. So I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that would never do JavaScript if there was no jQuery. And I'm pretty sure that John must have been really proud once he finally developed a website in Firefox and it really just worked on IE. I mean, he did it. He solved this problem that he was struggling with, but actually a lot of other people were struggling as well. And last Christmas, I started working on this test runner for JavaScript, something we were using pretty much every day, and I was basically tired of Miško complaining all the time, and so I wanted to make something better, something that would make our life easier. And so after a couple of days, I had an initial version which was pretty lame and was really not meant to be used by anyone else, but at least it worked for us. And so Miško and Igor started using it and started asking for more features. And it was really, for me, it was really amazing, and I was really happy that Miško actually liked it. But even at that time, I didn't think about being it useful for other people. But somehow, not even a year later, there's actually a lot of people using it, and not just people using it, but there's a lot of people contributing to it, which is, the community is awesome. I mean, I can tell you that most of the latest features, like code coverage and stuff, I didn't implement that at all. And that's really amazing, at least for me. And again, it started from our pain. It started from an effort to fix this problem and to basically make our life easier. So my advice from this is solve some existing problems. I mean, that's what John really did with jQuery. He was just solving a problem that was bothering him at that time. So you don't have to discover theory of relativity or something. Sometimes writing just a simple script can be really useful. All right, so I think we've seen two ingredients how to do amazing things. One from Ryan and one from John. And there is one more waiting for us. And I think that this one is actually the most important one. I mean, that's why it's the last one, right? Do you guys know who died not even a week after Steve Jobs? Anyone? I'm impressed. Okay, it's Dennis Ritchie. I mean, this guy has changed the world for us. And he was far from being a superstar. I have to confess that a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know about him. But if you take a look around at all these gadgets that you have in your hands and pockets, know that Dennis Ritchie had part in almost all of them. I mean, all of the phones, laptops, and tablets, even the router and the set-top box you have at home. He created C and Unix. I mean, even Windows was eventually rewritten in C. And most of the software for iPhone is written in C and Objective-C. So you saw shiny stuff when Steve Jobs presented, but underneath, there was something that had been developed a long time ago, but Dennis never spoke about it. He was not a rock star. He didn't tour around giving conference talks or working as a high-paid consultant. He was one of those background guys working alone after everyone else has gone home, and really money or fame were not the motivators for him. I think his work was his passion. I mean, true passion. And these days, people throw this word passion around a lot. So it's kind of beginning to dilute its meaning. But really, if you look at Dennis Ritchie and his work and his life, it really embodies what a true passion was supposed to mean. So if you can take just one thing that you feel strongly about, and do something with it, can you imagine the possibilities? So 3 things. I want you to remember 3 things. First, you don't have to invent anything. Just look around what already exists that can help you to solve the problem you are working on. And combine ideas and collaborate with other people, and something amazing may just happen. Second, think about what's bothering you right now. What are the obstacles or barriers for you? I mean, it's more likely they are bugging a lot of other people as well. So focus on solving the problems that are real for you. And the third one, don't worry if you don't love the spotlight. That doesn't mean you can't change the world. If you have a passion about something, feel free to work on it as quietly as you like. Do you know what makes me feel that even I can make a difference? Thinking back to my first weeks at Google in California, here I was, a young guy from a country that most of the people never heard of. And I was having lunch and meeting all these cool people that, they were like my heroes, And it was kind of shocked when I realized that these people were actually listening to you. They were listening to your ideas and not just being nice. And I'm not there yet, but I believe that these stories that I just shared with you are a good example that we all can do amazing things. So what are you waiting for? Thank you, guys.